Hey, welcome back. We have just finished section number 1 and are moving on to section 2. So section 1 was more general information that you need to know, things you should have. And now we're really getting into the specifics of translating. And one of the biggest issues or questions that new translators have is, should I use a CAT tool? And if you don't know what a CAT tool is, that's quite all right. I will break them down in this presentation. And so we'll talk about that. I'll give you a few good options, the free options and the paid options, and we will go from there. So first, what is a CAT tool? Well, a CAT tool is, as you can see, a computer-aided translation. So basically what it does is it uses the machine's speed and memory to help you be more efficient. Whenever you translate something and you save it, the CAT tool remembers how you translated that sentence, and it will then help you with repeated sentences, similar ideas, and it will suggest certain words that you repeat over and over again. So when you save a sentence, those words are saved to a translation memory, or TM, as they're more commonly called. So basically, every time, again, when you translate something, you save it to the memory. And so this helps you with already translated words or phrases. If you have repetitions in a document, or if you translated something similarly in a previous project, then a translation memory will help you. It's basically you translated it once, so why translate it again? You don't need to. You don't have to waste time typing it out if you already did the same thing once before. So CAT tools, usually the big ones, work with matches. And there are 3 different types of matches. So the first one is a complete match, which is something that you have previously translated in a different document. So for me, there are a lot of things that I translate over again because I'm a medical translator, such as Department of Cardiology, or hospital names, or treatment and therapy, and things like that. So I don't need to waste time translating those over again if I have already done it. The next one is fuzzy matches. So those are things that you have done in a different document as well, but they're not a perfect match. It's not word for word. It may be 70% or 80%. It's very close. The CAT tool will give you an option, and you can either choose to use it or not use it. Most times you use it, but then you change 3 or 4 words, and you get a good match. The last one is repetitions. Most CAT tools, if the same word or same phrase is repeated in that document, the document you're working on, when you save it the first time, it will automatically complete it throughout the whole document. So I usually use this a lot, actually, with numbers. It works really well, just repetitive numbers. Titles for graphs works really nice. Since I do medical document, repetitions are also fantastic for things like patents and laws, when the structure of wording and phrases are usually very similar. So that's basically a CAT tool. It's basically just something to help you out, and to make you more efficient and productive. So this is actually a screenshot from my CAT tool. As you can see, I use the mouse. As you can see up here, this is MemoQ, one of the most well-known CAT tools out there. This is a paid tool, and so it has a lot of different tools, results. You can use different documents. It's quite complex. But I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what a CAT tool more or less looks like. So there are 3 big parts. Over here, this is my source text. So this is the source language that I translate from, and obviously this is my target text, the language I translate to. So I obviously do Spanish to English. And so you have over here what you're translating, and then over here you type in your translation. Down below, you can see down here that you have a preview of what your document will look like after you complete the text. So you can see this box around Dear Editor is the same box that we have here for Dear Editor. And obviously, since I do a lot of medical letters, Dear Editor is something that I've translated 100 times. And so here are the translation results. Obviously, this CAT tool recognized that Dear Editor is something that I have done a lot. And so there are 3 different times or 3 different types of Dear Editor that I have used. So one with a colon, one with a comma, and one italic. So you can see as well that the match is 101%. So 101% is basically, it's verbatim, word for word, what you have already translated before. 99%, there we go, 99% is obviously incredibly close. The difference is we have a colon and a comma, so that's the difference. And then 99% again, because this is italic and this is not. So it's giving me 3 different options that I can use, and I can very easily, using hotkeys, which are different in every CAT tool, select one of those 3 options, put it in there, press enter, and continue on. So instead of typing it out, I can choose one of those options and move on. So those are the 3 big sections of most any CAT tool. You have your area where you're translating, you have your preview, and you have your translation memory over here. So those are the 3 big parts of CAT tools. So a few pros and cons of CAT tools. This is a very, I don't want to say heated subject, but there are a lot of different opinions on this. And so the pros, obviously, of using a CAT tool: speed, you can go faster, like I just showed you in that example. Consistency, same thing. If something is repeated over again, you should repeat it, obviously, if the context is the same. Ability to share, you can actually export your translation memories to others, and you can import other translation memories. There are a lot of public translation memories that you can use. And easily format. Head back. As you can see down here on the preview, it actually does all the formatting for you. It basically just replaces the words that you have translated. So some cons of CAT tools. Context. Context is a translator's favorite word. We all know translating one word from one language to another can have a dozen meanings, 15 meanings. It can be very complicated. So you have to have context. And with a CAT tool, sometimes it's difficult to get that context because all you see is 1 sentence or 2 sentences. And so having context can be a bit tricky with CAT tools. Double meanings, basically the same thing as context. It can be, again, translating words, phrases, different contexts, different ideas. The same word can be used in different translations. Next, no localization. So obviously idioms and metaphors and those things CAT tools do not understand. And the last one is security issues. This is well, it depends on what you translate, obviously. But I put security issues here because if there is a very sensitive document that you don't want out there and it has sensitive information, the translation memory you create with that sensitive document will also have sensitive information. So you have to be careful with what you how you share your translation memories, which ones you import and export. Security issues, especially with online tools, can be a bit tricky. So obviously, using a CAT tool is up to you. I personally love um, MemoQ, the CAT tool that I use. I think it's great. I think it's paid for itself 100 times over, and I'm incredibly happy. But saying that, it's because I do medical documents, and there are quite a few repetitions, and they use the same vocabulary, and so I can translate much faster than I would if I were just doing it in the Word document. So CAT tools are not necessary. Um, they, I feel they come in very handy. So when are CAT tools not necessary? Depending on what you translate. So the first is one-off jobs. If all you're doing is one thing, a CAT tool is not really going to help you because you're not using the machine's memory. Literary poems. Obviously, there's an incredible amount of context. People use idioms, examples that usually translate very poorly. And then if something has a lot of context, you do not need, probably should not use a CAT tool if you're doing any one of these three. It's a good idea to use CAT tool if you have repeated documents. For example, if you're doing government forms that never change, when you do one of those government forms, all you have to do the next time is take out all of the names and the personal information, and you will have the same document, and it'll go much faster. If you're doing transcripts, patents, medical translations like I do, they use a lot of repeated words, and I, again, believe that it has paid for itself 100-fold. The more technical documents are, usually the more repetitive they are. So if that's where you're headed, into technical, into law, into business, into medical, engineering, a CAT tool, getting used to a CAT tool would be a very, very good idea. So here are a few options of CAT tools. First, let's start with the free one. So Omega T is a very, very good downloadable, so offline CAT tool. It's great for first-time users. It's simple, to the point. It has the basics. It does a very good job, but it's not overly complicated like the paid versions are, or can be overly complicated. So Omega T is similar to the example I showed you, where you translate by sentence or by segment. So it's split up. It splits your documents into segments. Felix, on the other hand, you actually work right in the document. So in the Word document, you would open the Word document and you would click on a sentence, and then you would translate that sentence, and you would continue on like that. There's no import, export, nothing like that. You just work right in the document, which is very nice, especially for literary things, poems, things with a lot of context. Felix is a great tool. Paid, I have to mention Trados. It's the number one CAT tool out there. It's huge, incredibly complex. I believe it's a great tool as well, but it's also the most requested by people. A lot of jobs that you see will require Trados because that's what the company uses, and so they will give you files that only Trados can read, and so they will require you to use Trados as well. It is quite spendy. However, if you are a pros member, you get discounts, and we'll talk about that later. And then MemoQ, which is similar to Trados, a little less complex, a little more user-friendly, still a couple €100 or dollars. However, I prefer it to Trados. So those are a few options. There are a few dozen options out there, honestly, and every translator will probably give you a different their favorite cat tool. However, I feel like these, the Omega T and the Felix, are very good examples of free cat tools that you can use for each um, translation, each thing that you are translating. So that is why I have suggested them. Lastly, in conclusion, I would say choose a free option for now. I unfortunately did not. I jumped right in and I bought MemoQ because that's kind of what I do. I just jump right in, feet first, and I'm actually quite happy I did, but it was spendy at the time. Luckily, I had some funds to buy a cat tool, so I did that. But honestly, Omega T is a great free option, and you don't have to spend a dime. Again, Omega T for first time users. It's basic. It will get you in the rhythm of using a cat tool. And if you're thinking later that you will buy a Trados or a MemoQ because you want to go into technical documents, Omega T is a perfect starting spot. Lastly, Felix is good if you'd like to do the literary texts, or if you're doing like PowerPoint presentations or translating websites where you need to see the whole document, the whole context. Felix is a great option. So, yeah. So, this activity that we're going to do, we're actually going to download Omega T because I feel like it is the best um, all-encompassing option for everybody. It's free, easy to use, and we will break it down a little bit. If you have friends who are translators, ask them about the cat tools they use, their suggestions. They may have some different ones, but I personally believe Omega T is a great place for first-time cat users. So head on over to the activity and we'll get started. We'll see you there.